Buddhism, often seen as a singular philosophical and spiritual tradition, is in reality a diverse and multifaceted system of beliefs and practices that has evolved over more than 2 millennia. Among the most significant divisions within these 2 major branches of Buddhism developed in different historical, cultural, and geographical contexts, and their differences span philosophical views, spiritual goals, scriptural foundations, and practices. To understand the distinction between Theravāda and Mahāyāna, it is essential to explore their origins, their core doctrines, and how each school interprets the teachings of the Buddha. The division between Theravāda and Mahāyāna did not occur immediately after the death of the historical Buddha. Siddhartha Gautama, who lived around the 5th to 6th century BCE. Following the Buddha's passing, his disciples convened councils to preserve and recite his teachings. As these councils continued over the centuries, differences began to arise, primarily over monastic rules and philosophical interpretations. Around 100 years after the Buddha's death, the first significant schism occurred in the Sangha, the Buddhist monastic community, leading to the formation of different schools of thought. Among these early schools was the Theravāda, meaning the teaching of the elders, which would eventually give rise to the Theravāda tradition. Theravāda Buddhism emphasizes adherence to what it considers the earliest, most authentic teachings of the Buddha, preserved in the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon, also known as the Tipikaka or 3 baskets, includes the Vinaya Pitaka, rules. For monastics, the Sutta Pitaka, discourses of the Buddha, and the Abhidhamma Pitaka, philosophical and psychological analysis. These texts are written in Pali, a language closely related to the one the Buddha may have spoken. In contrast, Mahāyāna Buddhism emerged several centuries later, around the 1st century CE in India. It positioned itself not as a new sect, but as a broader and more universal interpretation of the Buddha's message. The term Mahāyāna means great vehicle, implying that it is capable of carrying many beings toward enlightenment. Mahāyāna Buddhists introduced a new set of scriptures, known as the Mahāyāna Scras, written in Sanskrit and later translated into Chinese, Tibetan, Korean, and other languages. These texts include foundational works such as the Lotus Scrawl, the Heart Scrawl, the Diamond Scrawl, and the Avatamsaka Scrawl. They often present a more expansive and sometimes metaphysical vision of the Buddhist path. One of the most profound differences between Theravāda and Mahāyāna lies in their conception of the goal of the spiritual path. In Theravāda Buddhism, the ultimate aim is to become an arhat, someone who has achieved liberation, nirvana, through personal effort and has eliminated all mental defilements and ignorance. The arhat has broken free from the cycle of birth and death and will not be reborn. This goal is seen as a rare and difficult attainment, requiring rigorous discipline, meditation, and deep insight into the nature of reality, particularly the 3 marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Mahāyāna Buddhism, however, redefined the ideal figure on the path to enlightenment. Rather than the arhat, the Mahāyāna tradition elevates the bodhisattva, someone who seeks enlightenment, not merely for personal liberation, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. A bodhisattva vows to delay their own final liberation in order to help others achieve awakening. This reflects Mahāyāna's strong emphasis on compassion, karunu, alongside wisdom, prajna. The bodhisattva path is portrayed as long and arduous, but guided by a profound altruistic motivation. In some Mahāyāna texts, the bodhisattva is depicted as having immense supernatural powers and boundless patience and wisdom. The Mahāyāna straws also present a more cosmological view of the universe, often describing countless Buddhas and bodhisattvas inhabiting other realms and universes. For example, Amitabha Buddha, the central figure in Pure Land Buddhism, a major Mahāyāna school, presides over a Western paradise where beings may be reborn to pursue enlightenment under ideal conditions. This represents a theological and devotional aspect largely absent in the Theravāda tradition, which focuses more on individual practice and historical teachings. The differences also extend to metaphysical views. Theravāda is generally more conservative and analytical in its philosophical approach, emphasizing dependent origination, Paccekasamuppada, the five aggregates, khandhas, and the Abhidhamma's detailed classification of mental states and phenomena. It sees Nibbana as a transcendent state beyond all conceptualization, free from suffering and impermanence, yet not describable in affirmative terms. Mahāyāna, by contrast, explores complex doctrines such as emptiness, anyat, and Buddha nature, Tathagatagarbha. The doctrine of emptiness, central to the teachings of Nagarjuna and the Madhyamaka school, asserts that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, not that they are non-existent, but that they exist only in dependence on causes, conditions, and conceptual labeling. This radical reinterpretation aims to dismantle all fixed views and attachments, leading to a profound freedom and openness of mind. Another important Mahāyāna teaching is the concept of Buddha nature, which posits that all beings inherently possess the potential to become Buddhas. This optimistic and egalitarian view contrasts with the more gradualist and disciplined path outlined in Theravāda. While Theravāda generally holds that only monks and highly dedicated practitioners can achieve enlightenment, Mahāyāna suggests that all beings, lay and monastic, alike have access to awakening through the cultivation of wisdom and compassion practices. In both traditions include ethical conduct, meditation, and wisdom, but the emphasis and methods vary. Theravāda emphasizes insight, vipassana, and mindfulness, sati, meditation, aiming for direct realization of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Mahāyāna includes a broader array of meditative practices, including visualization, chanting, mantra recitation, and devotion to celestial Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For instance, the repetition of the name of Amitabha Buddha is a central practice in Pure Land Buddhism, intended to secure rebirth in the Pure Land. Theravāda monks follow a more conservative Vinaya, with stricter monastic rules, including the wearing of simple saffron or ochre robes, and often lead lives centered around meditation, alms rounds, and scriptural study. In Mahāyāna countries, especially in East Asia, monastic codes may be more flexible, and rituals and ceremonies often play a larger role in daily religious life. Mahāyāna monastics may also wear different colored robes depending on their country and school. Over time, both traditions have evolved and interacted with local cultures. In Southeast Asia, Theravāda Buddhism has integrated with folk beliefs, ancestor worship, and animist traditions, resulting in rich local practices. In East Asia, Mahāyāna Buddhism has absorbed elements of Confucianism, Taoism, and Shinto, leading to diverse schools like Zen in Japan, Tiantai in China, and Seon in Korea. These schools sometimes emphasize sudden enlightenment, artistic expression, and meditation over doctrinal study. Despite their differences, Theravāda and Mahāyāna share a deep reverence for the Buddha and his teachings. Both aim at overcoming ignorance and suffering, and both cultivate ethical behavior, mental discipline, and wisdom. Modern Buddhist teachers and scholars often stress the complementary nature of these traditions, viewing them not as rivals, but as different expressions of the Dharma, adapted to different times, places, and needs. In recent decades, globalization, academic research, and interfaith dialogue have led to increased interaction between Theravāda and Mahāyāna practitioners. Western Buddhist communities often include teachings and techniques from both traditions. For example, Mindfulness meditation, rooted in Theravāda, is now commonly practiced alongside Zen or Tibetan practices, showing a fusion that was rare in earlier centuries. The question of which form is closer to the Buddha's original teachings is complex and ultimately subjective. Theravāda prides itself on preserving the earliest scriptures in a language close to what the Buddha spoke, offering a minimalist and analytical path. Mahāyāna presents a more visionary, poetic, and cosmic interpretation of the Dharma, emphasizing universal salvation and the boundless compassion of bodhisattvas. Both, however, continue to inspire millions in their quest to understand suffering, cultivate compassion, and awaken to the true nature of reality. In the end, the diversity within Buddhism is a reflection of the richness of human experience. Theravāda and Mahāyāna are not simply rival sects, but profound spiritual traditions, each with its own insights and gifts to offer. Whether one is drawn to the discipline and simplicity of Theravāda or the visionary compassion of Mahāyāna, the ultimate goal remains the same: liberation from suffering, the awakening of wisdom, and the realization of peace within and without. Thanks for watching. Our channel is new and needs your support. In our channel, you can find many videos on the history and philosophical teachings of Buddhism. Please subscribe to our channel to support the teachings of Buddha on YouTube. You can download our app from Google Play. Get notifications, daily quotes from Buddha, guided meditation methods, articles about Buddhist wisdom and sutras from Pali Canon. Discover inner peace, cultivate mindfulness, and unlock the infinite wisdom of the Buddha with this app. Download link below.